what's going on, guys? It's morning. I'm back with you guys with another video today. So today we're going to be working on something kind of special. So my kids decided that they didn't want their Switch anymore, and I was like, sweet, another gaming console for me. I was planning on buying the Switch 2 when it came out, and I'm still planning on that. And I thought about just getting a new one because I'm like, man, I'll just sell this one to some other kid that'll rip it up and whatever. Then I was like, you know what? Let me just see if I can repair the screen on it. So that's what I'm going to do today. Is we're going to repair the screen, and then if you also see it's kind of beat up a bit, it got messed up with the kickstand as well. So I went ahead and ordered a new screen, which I'll show that to you guys in a second, and a new kickstand for it. Now the kickstand was like 12 bucks, but honestly it's kind of worth it because it comes with these like aluminum screwdrivers in it, and I'll show that to you guys here in a minute. So that was pretty sweet, and then the the screen really wasn't expensive, guys. Like 12 bucks for the screen, just the digitizer. I don't think the LCD's messed up. It's just the screen and the digitizer itself. And I also went ahead and went for a little bit of an upgrade. If I remember right, this is actually supposed to be glass and not plastic. The original screen is actually plastic. So anyhow, yeah, that's the screen with the digitizer on it. All right, guys. So the first things first with this, let's kind of go over the tools and stuff you guys may need. I pulled out a few here. I won't probably need hardly any of these, but I thought I would show you anyways. So the first thing you're definitely going to need anytime you're doing screens is you're going to need a heat gun because this is all held on by an adhesive. You definitely want a decent heat gun for it. Now, the other thing I should mention is the screen that I got does not come with adhesive. I am probably going to end up using this. This is B7000. You can buy it off of Amazon. I don't actually remember how much it is, but I'll leave a link for you guys in the description. So this is one of the options that you can use. Another option is like this double-sided adhesive tape. I don't use this very often, only when I'm like absolutely in need of it. Will I do that? And then the other thing you're probably going to want is some of these screen clamps. Basically, you just clamp it on there so it puts enough pressure on it to keep that glue running on it, and it won't be too bad. So you'll need those. I'll leave links in the description for all that stuff. So some of the other things that you're going to want are like some of the tools. So I have a razor blade for screens that may need like that super thin deal to get up under it. I also have a tool that was given to me. I get a lot of these tools in like the packages and stuff that I order because they just sometimes just cheaper to buy the ones with the tools than without. And then I've got some pry tools as well. And then if you guys have seen my last video, which I'll leave a link in the description for that, where we went ahead and replaced the fans on the laptop, I have my two tool sets. I'll leave just links in the description for these as well. But these two tool sets come with a lot of the stuff that you will need and a lot of stuff you've already seen. So you're going to need one of those. I recommend going to iFixit and starting with that because you can get like simple tool kits there for like 10-15 bucks, so they're not expensive. These toolkits are usually $30-40 range, and then if you go like something like this, it's going to be a bit more expensive. It could be all the way up to $80 depending on what you get. All right, so now that we have kind of gone over the tools, let's go ahead and get started with this thing. So the first thing I'm going to do, and you need to do, is you got to pull off the controllers. And then the next thing you're going to want to do is, like, I believe this is probably on, and it is. So we're going to go ahead and so you guys can see the digitizer works before on here. So we're going to go ahead and turn this off, though. All right, maybe just hold the power. There we go. All right, so if you hold the power, you get the power options that way. So you go power options and then turn off. All right, once you have it off, then take the controllers out. And we're going to put the controllers to the side. We don't need to worry about those. So there's quite a few screws in here that we need to go ahead and take out. There's going to be 4 on the back here. And then there's going to be 3 here and 5 on each side where the controllers are. And then that's pretty much where we're starting at. And there's also 2 on the bottom as well. So we need to get all those off because we got to take the back off so we can disconnect everything to get the screen out, as well as we got to put the kickstand in. So let's go ahead and get started with that. This is the kickstand that I ordered. I meant to show you guys this earlier, since we're talking about tools, is these little screwdrivers that came with it. And they gave you 2 to remove this kickstand, which is pretty cool. So, and they're both like little Phillips, it looks like, and they're fully metal. So you got 1.5 by 25 millimeters, and then 1.5 by 25 millimeters. So there's 2 of them. And then I'm wondering if that is the correct, and it sure is. All right, so those are actually the correct ones for the screws, which is interesting. And you can see like the dirt that these kids have done to this. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see that, but there is crazy amount of dirt in that. So that's nuts. So you know what? We're going to go ahead and use the tools they provided. I'm not going to use the fancy stuff. So if you guys order the kickstand, you might not have to have the rest of the tools to save you some money. So there's that. All right, so let's go ahead and get this one out here. And here goes another one. So anytime you take something like this apart, you're going to want to make sure to clean it before you put stuff back in. So I'll be cleaning all those screws off and all that, making sure that they're, you know, well taken care of for the next time that we go ahead and pull these off. We definitely don't want any kind of an issue with them. All right, so I got the 4 screws on the back, and then I'm noticing right off the bat that this is sliding, and I don't want to strip that. So is it this one that's... Yeah, so this one's the blue one's the different size, so the blue ones are for the sides, I guess. At least when it comes to that kickstand. Let's see. And we'll put that in a different pocket so I know where each one of them are. Okay, oh, and it's magnetic. That's cool. So once you get all these out, oh my goodness, really magnetic. There we go. Once we get all these out, we'll be able to take this back plate off, and then we'll should be able to walk through the... Oh, now see, this is slipping for some reason. I couldn't tell you why. Unless it's a different size screw in here. Why would there be a different size screw right here, though? No? Okay, it was just in there really, really well. So, got to be careful about that. You do not want to strip these screws out. Replacements aren't too bad, but you're going to have a hard time making sure you get the right one. And it's just better to have the original parts if you can do it. All right, so that's done. On that side, now we're going to do this other side here. So many of these. I'm going to put that in a different pocket just to make sure I have the right one here. Oh shit, look at that, we got stuff falling off already. Alright, make sure that doesn't happen to you, because that could ruin things pretty badly. So this is my first time taking one of these out, but, you know, it should be fairly simple. So we'll find out. Oop, it seems to be this middle one that's just constantly, whatever. You got to put some good pressure on it, otherwise you're going to strip it out. So be very careful about that. It's the, what is that? 1, 2, 3. The 4th one in, it seems to be giving me the most trouble, at least on mine. So just keep an eye on it, I guess. Probably the best thing that you can do. All right. So that is removed now, and both of these are able to be removed and out. So the last 2 that we need, I believe, are on the bottom here, and that's going to require the smaller one. At least that's what it looks like. Well, maybe not. All right, still the blue one, I guess. I don't know why they use 2 different types of screws or sets of screws here. So again, we're going to find like a nice little spot, keep that separate. Make sure you keep your screws separate so you kind of know where everything was. Generally, that's pretty important. All right, so that's been released completely. So at this point, we should be able to just take the back right off, and you can. It's super easy to take off, at least from what I can tell. So I'm trying to see if there's anything else holding it on here. Getting a little bit of resistance in the middle here. So I want to be careful about pulling it, because again, if you force anything, it's not usually a good thing. All right, I think in this case, let me take this SD card out. That would be helpful. Let's start with that. And then Ah, okay. See, there's our problem. So there was a screw under the SD card, and I didn't even know it was there. That's why you look. All right, and that one's for the green one as well. Come on. All right, and that one doesn't want to come out like super quick, so let's see if we can. Nope, it's still wanting to hang in there. All right, crazy tiny screw that one is. All right, pair of tweezers is always a good idea because of crap like that. That little tiny screw was just about to be lodged in the SD part, and now the whole back comes off fairly easily. Doesn't seem to be an issue there. Let's just check and make sure we don't have anybody else that needs to come off here. All right, looks like we might have one more at the top here that I didn't see. So many screws. All right, let's see if we can get that off. Ooh, small. Okay. Let's see what we need to do here. There we go. Had to get the right one. All right, and there's one more that was at the top. So, like I said, be crazy careful, guys, because you know you don't want to bust this, and that's what was holding it too. So once I took that out, it seemed to be all right. And there the whole top came off. Look how nasty that is. That's pretty bad. We'll clean that off. It's nice if you got a little vacuum like what I got, but if you don't have one, it's not the end of the world. I use this to clean stuff and whatever I need. That's fairly easy and done. Pretty good, not bad. All right, so now you guys can kind of see where these side things are plugged in. So you can see they're plugged in there. We don't want to really mess with those too much. We're going to kind of leave them where they are. But yeah, so you guys can see that's where the kickstand would be. And that's actually where we're going to replace it when we're done. But we're not going to do that just yet because we don't need to. But yeah, so the whole kickstand just kind of goes right in there with the mechanism. Everything. Actually, let's open it up and just make sure that looks right. Yeah. So the mechanism actually comes up under here and it replaces what's on this back panel. And that's super easy. So you know what? Let's go ahead and replace it. I thought it was going to be more difficult, but it's not. So let's take it out. The screws and everything here. And then we can pop this kickstand out, supposedly. Oh, something just dropped. Heard it. Ah, there we go. So the mechanism came out, and that's all it is right there, and it just broke off of that. So, and that's the one that's on the end. Now this one's made of aluminum, so probably be a bit harder to break. All right. Well, let's see. Let's check the instructions on this one because I'm not sure how that's supposed to go back in there. So they got instructions in, looks like Chinese maybe. But hey, there's pictures. We can do pictures. We got this. Okay, it says take all the screws out. We did that. Now that the screws are out, and remove those. Where's step 9? Oh. Take the SD card out. It just shows us like how to take it off or take it apart. My problem isn't taking it apart. It's well, it's apart now. Now what? And also this came out for some reason. It took me a second, but I got it figured out. So you insert it through the slot like that, and apparently that's how it goes. Now mine's turned around, so we got to go that way. And then literally it just flattens down on there like you saw before, and then your kickstand just snaps in right there. Put that down, and then you put your 2 screws back in, and that's it for the kickstand. So if you're here for just installing a kickstand, that's like crazy easy, and dude, that's like 30 seconds. But we're not here just for a kickstand today, so we're gonna get this other guy in here and see if we can go from there. Man, these screws are so small. Be difficult to work with sometimes. But now when you tighten these down, don't over tighten them. They're tiny screws. They're not gonna, you know, be all like Superman, Loctite, whatever. I don't know. You don't need to get all rough with them. Just enough to get them in there, and that's good enough. All right, so that's pretty cool. So kickstand opens, and wait, does it? Should lock. Anyways, kickstand opens and it closes. So that's what we needed it to do. And it looks like it'll sit right up there, no problems. So that's good. Okay, so now that we got the kickstand in, we can put this aside. We don't really need it on the table or anything. So let's clean up our mess a little bit. All right, so now that that part's done, now it's time for the hard part, which is getting the screen placed in here. So to get the screen placed in, we got to finish taking this thing apart. So we've got several screws in here we're going to have to take out. And it looks like we got one here. So we need to get this plate off first and foremost. So it's dirty. So we got one here, one here. Looks like one here and one here that's holding it on, as well as there's some behind it. So just look for anywhere that is connected on here really, and that's where you're going to have to remove the screws from. And again, try to make sure that you have your screws separated so you know exactly where they came from and where they go back to, because if you don't, you're going to wish you had. Because it'll be really difficult to make sure you get screws back, or you're going to be missing screws somewhere, or you're going to have extra parts. You know, when you take something apart, put it back together, and you have extra parts, it's not generally a good thing. All right. You definitely don't want any of that. All right, I think this is the last one for the plate. And then we should be able to get under it. So this is a heatsink plate. It's also super, I don't want to say it's crazy fragile, but you can break it. So be very careful when you're lifting it up, because you do not want to have to replace one of these. All right, so there's a screw in the middle too that I didn't see. Hidden screws everywhere on this thing. So be very careful when you're taking this apart, because you may miss a screw or whatever. All right, let's see if we can pop her up now. She's still stuck somewhere. Let's see here. Oh, I bet it's actually this chip that's right here. Be very careful when you're taking this stuff out though, guys. As I mentioned before, it is not a good thing. So this chip is the SD card reader, in case you guys are wondering. And it was probably the last screw that was actually holding that on. So let's just check. Let's see if that was it. I'm still getting some kind of pressure from somewhere on here. I'm not sure what it's from. Oh, here it comes, maybe. So that side's kind of coming up. Don't see, oh, there it goes. Okay, just a little bit of pressure. You got to pull it up a little bit, so don't yank it hard, and be careful when pulling it up because you may miss a screw, but a little bit of pressure is what you need on it. And then it pulls right away just like that. And then you guys can see, so that's thermal paste, it looks like, which is crazy. But yeah, that's the thermal paste that they have for the heat pipes and the CPU that's on here. And then you also have this doohickey here for your SD card reader, which actually plugs in right there. So I don't know how well you guys can see that, but that's where it plugs in at. So be very, very cautious with that. Don't mess with the thermal paste. It is definitely super dry on there. If you have the means to get new thermal paste, probably not a bad idea. I don't have any today, so I'm going to make a note that I need more thermal paste, and then I'll come back in here later and do it. Generally, when I see that, though, I want to do that. All right, so before we do anything else, now that we have this open, we're going to disconnect the power, because this is the battery. Here's the power for it. So we're going to disconnect the power, and the way you do that is you're going to grab your tweezers generally, and it's usually, so you're going to want to just grab it and pull, wiggle, oh, there we go, and you're going to pull up, not out, up. All right, so that's disconnected now. Just a quick note here, this SD, like I pulled it off with it attached to this plate, but you don't actually have to do that. You can actually disconnect it before that. Just a note for those that may be wondering. I'm going to put this to the side over here. That on top of it. All right, so the next thing we want to go ahead and do is let's remove this side here, because as you guys saw earlier, I actually lost one. And then I was just looking it up, and I got a little bit of a tip from somebody else, but the basics of it is like these side rails, this one here in particular, you can actually just leave one screw in, and it won't mess anything up, which is pretty nice, actually. So I'm going to grab a screw, and we're going to put it in the side here for it, which that's not even the right one. I believe it was these, or let's see, 2, 4, 5. Yeah, it was these little ones. I almost forgot where my screws were, which ones were what. So I'm going to put a screw back in this one. I'm just going to put one in it to hold it in there. And that's just so we don't have to worry about it flipping around and whatnot, so now it won't go anywhere. And then this one we're going to go ahead and remove. You're going to want to get your deals here. Now, be careful doing this, because you're going to need to be careful with this ribbon, but basically the way this works is this flips up, and you're going to have to pull the cable out. But these cables can rip super, super easy, so be very careful about that. Okay, so to remove this, I had to go look it up, to be honest with you, but to remove this, there's like a little flip tab on the edge of this that you have to get, and then there it goes. So mine just flipped up, and you'll have to play with it a little bit, but there's a flip tab on the edge. I don't know if you can see that or not. If you can, here, I'll zoom in right here for you. So there's this little tab right here. I don't know how you can see it, but it's right there. And you have to flip it up to get this out, and then that just pulls directly out. So just wanted to show you guys that. All right, so from there, we've got everything else done, so we're going to go ahead and take this piece out. And then once that's out, then we can go ahead and start looking at removing the LCD portion of this. Or no, I'm sorry, not the LCD, the digitizer and the screen on the other side. So we just want to get enough off so where we can remove it. And the reason we need to remove this portion is because this particular chip that's in here is where it plugs into for the LCD and the digitizer. So we want to make sure that we have that unplugged and done. And again, with these little things, again, you're going to have to flip the tabs up on it. It's not super easy to do. There we go. I finally got it. It takes a bit of force to do it. I'm not going to lie to you guys, but fingernail is probably your best bet. I don't recommend using tools on that, because you're going to end up ripping the thing and whatever. So once you got that, though, you can unplug it from there. So just like that. So now you guys can see that that's unplugged for me. And what we can do is we can actually test our digitizer before we even do anything. So once we get it in there, anyways, you may need to use some tweezers to help you out if it's kind of difficult to control, which mine is being a little difficult. You want to make sure that that slide is all the way up as well, otherwise it'll be kind of rough. I don't know how well you guys can see, but hopefully you can see this enough. Anyway, so you slide it in there best you can, all the way up to the tabs. Once it's in there, you go ahead and lock it in. So you may want to, again, just use your fingers so you don't end up breaking it. All right, so mine is in there now. So now that that's done, we can go ahead and turn it on. So you're going to want to plug your battery back in by just putting that over and smashing it down there. And then all we're going to do is we want to test the digitizer screen. So we're going to turn it on here. Where's the power button? On the other side, of course. So and you guys can kind of see it here on there, and I kind of have to hold it at the same time. But we want to press on this and see if it does a touch like we want it to. Yep. All right. Yep, there it goes. All right, so we can see that the digitizer actually works. It's a little difficult to work, obviously, but and then I got into a spot where I don't know. So kind of got to guess everything, but we can see that it definitely does work. So that is good enough for me anyways. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it back off. Again, you want to hold it. And then best to your ability anyways, you're going to want to press the right spot. So I'm going to guess it's like right here-ish. Okay, so now that we've got it tested and everything, let's go ahead and do the finger thing again. And we're going to, once again, lift up. And then once it's out of there, it's out. So we're all good there. And now our digitizer is free again, our new one anyways. And we're going to go ahead and put that to the side while we go ahead and get the rest of this. So now that we know the digitizer works, we can go ahead and finish taking this out. So we're going to go ahead and just take this chip out here for your digitizer and put that off to the side. And pop it out here. It also disconnects from over here. I should mention that. So you're going to want to grab your tweezers, and it literally just is, it's just a pull from the bottom there. But we need to get this far just to be able to get it out of there. And there we go. All right, so it's all pried up now, so we're good there. So we should be, in theory, be able to take it out. There we go. All right, so that's all out of there now, so we're good there. We're going to put this off to the side and just kind of put it where my other screw was. All right, so now that that's off, we generally, if you wanted to get to like the LCD, that would be in here as well, but we only need this particular cable, so good news for us. All right, so now that it's off, we can go ahead and start working on detaching the screen. And I actually forgot to go ahead and detach the power again, so you'll definitely want to do that. All right, so now we can go ahead and just work on detaching the screen, which is good for us. So at this point, let's go ahead and we're going to get our heat gun out, and we're going to start heating the edges and pulling that screen off. All right, guys, so I did kind of make a little bit of a mistake. I took this out before taking this part out, so just one of those things I want to tell you guys about. You can take it out, but the problem is if you do it the way I did, you're not going to be able to get it back in. So I'm just so you guys can see the right way, and so I can get back in later, we're going to go ahead and take these three screws out here, and then we're going to use some rubbing alcohol to go ahead and take this off so we don't lose the foam as best we can. I'm not expecting miracles, but rubbing alcohol is great. So let's go ahead and do that. I've got this here. You don't want to just spray it on as far as the rubbing alcohol goes. So generally what I'll do is I will, in this situation, and I'll try to show you guys best I can, I will spray a tiny little bit on here and then just kind of rub it around. So that way when I go in here and I just kind of shiv it, if you will, but you want to take your time with it best you can and make sure that you get as much as possible of that rubbing alcohol on there so it'll come off easy. Now if you find a spot like this spot's kind of rough right there, you can take a razor blade and actually get it up fairly easy that way. But again, take your time with it. If you take your time, you're not going to have any of the foam and stuff missing later. It's not the end of the world, but you want to try to preserve it best you can. Which is what I am attempting to do anyways. It is certainly being a royal pain. Alright, so I'm using this method as well. I just put it on a rag that I had, and I'm just going to kind of dab it best I can. Now the rubbing alcohol, it needs to be 91% or better. The higher the percentage, the better, because it's non-conductive. So that's why we're able to use it here without worry of anything being crazy. Now I don't recommend that you spray it directly on per se, but it does definitely come in handy if you're able to do that. All right, now with that on there, I was able to cut my way in a little bit more. Did cut a little bit off, but it's not crazy. So I'm actually pretty happy with that result. And so the razor blade seems to win the day here as far as that goes. So I believe I got pretty much all of it off. So we're going to go ahead and undo these screws now. And I'm running out of places to put them, so they're going there. Okay. Alright, and it's just these 3 screws that should come off. Now remember, there's going to be thermal paste under here because that is the CPU, GPU, that's like everything. And then this whole heat sink is going to come up. Or at least that's what it's supposed to be. So it may take a little bit of prying to get it up. So don't worry too much if you got to. Just be careful about doing too much too fast. See, mine took a little bit, but I as gently as I possibly can pick this guy up so it will come out in full, hopefully. I can see it's a little stuck on here from this foam, it looks like. So we're going to go ahead and attempt to remove more of that foam from it. In hopes that it'll come out. I don't think I did as good a job as I'd like it to be, but it is what it is. Alright, so we have officially gotten it out of there, and that's the entire heat sink as well as the copper that goes over the CPU, GPU. And you're going to want to turn this upside down because you don't want to get anything in that thermal paste. And again, if you can afford to do so, it's always a good idea, in my opinion anyways, to get new thermal paste if you can. It's not 100% a requirement, but it's not really a bad idea either. Alright, so now that that's out of there, we'll have the ability to put this guy back in. And really, that's probably what we should have done to begin with. So when this comes back in, or when it comes out, it'll come on here like that. And it literally just makes our lives a little bit easier. So when we put it back in, it literally just, and then you press down and you're good to go. So that's all that was for. That's why we did all that weird, crazy stuff. So I'm going to put that aside, make sure it doesn't get dirty or anything, and get it out of the way. All right, so now with all that done, we are officially ready to go ahead and take the screen off of this thing. So this is where the heat gun comes into play that I showed you guys earlier. So this is a cheap one. I believe I picked it up for like 20 bucks on Amazon. It's not too expensive. I will try to go ahead and leave the link for this. I don't even know if it's still on there, but I'll leave the link if I can find it. So At this point, though, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go ahead and heat this up around the edges as evenly as possible. You're going to do that for a few minutes until you think you have it hot enough, and then we're going to go ahead and try to pry it, and then it's a back and forth thing. The biggest thing I can tell you about this part, because it is such a pain, you really, really want to take your time. Take your time, make sure you do it right, because if you mess it up, you're going to wish you hadn't. So especially because of the digitizer on here. And then just one more reminder here. So if you guys see this black spacer here, if you see like this guy here, you don't want it to go past that. You want it to just right on the edge or even about halfway. But you go past that, you're going to hit the actual LCD screen, and then you're going to wish you hadn't. Okay, so the LCD, or I'm sorry, yeah, so the LCD is going to be plugged in over this way. There's going to be a cable that's running, kind of like this one here. We want to be careful not to rip that. Because we definitely need that cable. So we're going to start on the battery side, and that's where we're going to start prying from. But to start with, we're going to go ahead and heat it up. So I'm going to get started with now. And you don't want to get too close. They do like sell heating mats and that kind of stuff. And I almost bought one, to be honest, but they're about $100, and you know, I'm not ready to make that investment yet. But yeah, so you're going to sit here and heat it for a couple minutes. Usually a minute or two will do it. And you want to try to spread the heat around as best you can. You can also use a hair dryer to do this as well. But you know, this fancy little heat gun that I got seems to do a really good job for me. At least on the other screen replacements I've done in the past. So not too bad, and seems to do pretty well. But again, you're going to want to take your time with this and make sure that you are not breaking anything along the way, or you're doing any of that crazy, you know, stuff. But you definitely want to keep it warm. By heating it up, what it does is it loosens up the adhesive that's under the screen and allows us to start prying it up. And that's really where we're heading with this. Okay. I can feel the heat pretty good on it, so we're going to go ahead and stop for a second. And let's see if we can go ahead and start prying it up. Now, I like starting with my razor tool because generally it's a little bit easier to get this up. So if you can get it in there anyways, that's generally the hard part. It's getting in that lip, and then just start working your way to prying it up if at all possible. It can be pretty difficult to do. Looks like I was able to get a bit in there, which is awesome. And I'm just going to kind of work my way up the sides with it. But I can see that it still needs a bit more heat, so we're going to leave that in there. And then before I put more heat to it, I need to go ahead and pull out my other handy tools here. So I have these things, they look like guitar picks. They are super handy. So I've got these guys, and then I've got the bigger guys. I like using the smaller ones because they have like these little, and it's hard to see on here, but they have an edge to where it doesn't let you go as far, and it's super nice. So you end up not messing things up as much. So anyhow, so you know, you're going to want to swap that out if you can. So I'll probably go under it here and then take this guy out best I can anyways. There we go. All right, so dangerous guys away, and then we're just going to go ahead and heat up this some more to get this screen to release a bit more. So the big thing is you want to keep it warm, not necessarily like crazy hot, but you want to keep it fairly warm the whole time you're working on it. It'll make it a lot easier for you to get through stuff and all of that. So some people like to work on one side at a time when it comes to the heat. I like trying to keep it as even as possible around the whole thing. I don't know why, but I feel like it just makes it a little bit easier. Oh, I lost my damn. Aw. I lost it. Let me see if I can get back in. All right, back to the razor blade because I lost my link there. Oh. Come on, man. All right, there we go. So I got the corner back. Again, we're gonna throw a pick under, pop that out. All right, so you don't want to go too far in, as I kind of said before, and you're gonna want to kind of go up. It's gonna take a little bit of force, and if it feels like it's not going, it's probably because it's not. So you're gonna want to make sure, like this is actually going really easy for me. And that's great. So I can see that it's coming up here. It's not that big of a deal, so we're looking good there. So I'm going to grab another pick just to hold this corner. And then we can do some more here. So we're going to open this guy up. I don't need all of y'all, just one. Thanks. And then, so you want to kind of hold your corner open where you already opened up, so that way it's not too bad. And you're probably going to use a few of these picks along the way. That is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Okay, so I'm going to need some more heat at this point. And we're going to work this top side and the bottom side, and then this is the side that I said, like I was saying, the ribbon was on, so we want to be careful. All right, like I said, you want to spread it as even as you can. All right, so let's see if we can get this bottom side before we move on, the side that I started with anyways, and kind of work our way down with it. See how that goes. Now this is actually coming up very, very easy, so we're going to be careful. Make sure we don't do anything super crazy with it, but it's not bad at all, guys. Okay, so I'm going to leave that there and probably grab one more pick here to put in the center on this side. But I can see here that it's coming off real easy. It's almost like butter. It's pretty good, which means we heated it right. So that is always a good thing. All right, so we're going to try to heat up this side again, I guess, and get it to move a little more for us. So once we get enough of this done, the whole thing should lift up, and that's what we want. All right, let's try to go ahead and get the rest of this here. Hopefully we'll get it all in one piece, preferably. Move that up under there, and yeah, there we go. And then again, just be very careful and cautious. If something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. And I think I've got the last bit of this here. All right, so I think we're pretty much at the point where I might be able to just lift this up. So let me see if I can do that. It's always a good idea when you're about to lift something up to make sure that you're absolutely correct, because I could have been wrong about the placement of where that wire is, but it looks like I'm right, at least so far. And I'm very gently moving this up, and the reason I'm moving this up is because, from what I can tell anyways, the LCD is actually coming up with this, which from what I heard is a problem that does occur. So you want to be very, very careful to not break the LCD along the way. You do not want to do that at all costs. So I'm trying to pry the LCD off of the screen itself here. And here, I'll see if I can show you guys a bit more. Yeah, we definitely don't want to break that. So if you guys can see in there, this is the LCD here, and those are the cables there. So we don't want to hurt the LCD. So we're going to be very careful and not scratch it. We're going to have to pry the LCD off a bit before we can take the digitizer completely off. So this is where This is where things get dangerous, if you will. So I'm going to remove it as best I can anyways from the actual frame here. There we go. So I can kind of come up with it here. And I want this LCD off without hurting anything. This is why a lot of people order LCDs. I did not, so if I screw this up, I'm screwed. So pressure is on. All right, so you guys remember that black bar you didn't want to go to, right? Well, guess what? We're going to have to do that because this LCD is actually stuck to the digitizer here. So I'm using my fingernails right now to gently as I possibly can, pry this off here, because these LCDs, they're very fragile. And if, like I said, if this doesn't go well, I'll break the whole thing. And we definitely don't want that. All right, so I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but like, yeah, so the LCD actually came up with the screen and the digitizer that went with it, which is crazy. I think they actually put like an adhesive right here or something like that, or maybe I just like pulled up the weird film or something. I don't know, but either way, so I was able to detach the LCD from this screen, but it was a pain in the ass. So be aware that that can and will happen to you. So you need to be very careful when pulling this up, because otherwise you could easily damage this LCD. And if this thing gets scratched or any of those things, you're going to wish you hadn't, you know? So be very careful about that. The good news is I was able to get it off, and I guess time will tell whether or not it works. Once we get the display and everything on, I guess we'll see. And, you know, just kind of see how everything goes. But for now, there's your little display thing there. That was a pain to get off. So that was the digitizer and everything. And then here is the new one. Pull that out anyways. There we go. Okay. All right, guys. So we got everything off here. Now, you're going to want to make sure there's no dust or anything on your screen if at all possible. And this is our new guy here. So we've got two things that need to be peeled off. There's the top portion here, and then there's this inside plastic that needs to come off as well. So you're going to want to make sure that comes off. You can do it just with a fingernail in most cases. Be careful not to pull your digitizer up. You don't want that. You just want the inside covering plastic off, because, well, it just won't work if you do it incorrectly here. There we go. Oh, almost. There we go. All right, so I'm just pulling that plastic off the inside. You want to make sure you do that, otherwise your touchscreen will not work the way it's supposed to. So the digitizer won't work the way it's supposed to. All right, and for me, we need to go ahead and plug this guy back in. So it's going to go into this hole here, and that's where it's going to go on there. Now, before we do all of that, like I told you guys, so this still has the original adhesive on here. I'm going to see if I can remove it. And I should have waited to remove the other stuff first, but it's all right. We're going to see if we can remove this original adhesive, because I'm going to put new adhesive on here anyways. And it just makes sense to me to remove the old, which it looks like we may be able to do easy enough, which is good news for us. So, and there you go. So that's really clean and easy right off the bat, so I love it. Now I can tell you there is a ton of dust in here, so I want to try to clean that out as best as I possibly can. But this is what happens when kids get devices. This is a normal thing that I see quite a bit. It's just dirt and debris everywhere. And again, you want to try to be as gentle as possible, because you do have your LCD display in there. If you're going to clean this, I'm being as careful as I possibly can not to scratch my LCD screen. There are most certainly better ways to do this, but you know, this is the easiest way that I've found to do it for myself, at least. But you know, to each their own. Everybody has their own idea of stuff and whatnot. So again, you're gonna want to make sure your LCD is good to go. You want to try not to scratch it. So it's surprising, but a little bit of tissue paper actually goes a long way with this. Make sure it's super soft so it doesn't scratch the display. You can actually just gently wipe it off from any dust or anything that's on it. It's preferable just to not get dust on it, but if you do, you can kind of do this way. Microfiber is obviously preferred over anything else, but you know, do the best you can with what you got. All right, so I'm pretty sure I got most of that off there, so we're looking good there. All right, so now let's go ahead and utilize the adhesive I was telling you guys about. So I like this because I'm a lot more controlled with it and it's easier for me to do. So what you're going to do is just kind of put a dab in here. You don't need a lot, but you're just going to coat it all the way down and, you know, kind of mix it up in there so it goes where it needs to be. Like I said, you really don't need a lot. And try not to get into any of like the mic holes or any of that stuff. And do not get it on the LCD, whatever you do. So they do sell a separate adhesive, but like I said, I like just doing this myself. It makes my life easier. And we still get a really good seal from it, so it seems to work out pretty well for me. But that may not be the case for everybody else. All right, so now that we've got that, we're going to go ahead and put the screen back in. Do this pretty quick here. We don't want everything all messed up, so you're going to have to lift it up a bit. Make sure that your screen fits exactly the way it's supposed to on here before you drop it down. And then once you have it in there, you're going to want to press it in. Make sure it's sitting in the right spot. Now I'm having a hard time telling where it is with this plastic on it. I'm wearing gloves though, so I can, you know, pull this off. Not really an issue. So, right. There we go. So now I'm going to go ahead and place this in here fully. Make sure it fits all the way. And we're going to secure it all the way down. So there will be no more issues with that. All right. Got a little glue on my gloves, I think. We'll clean it off after we're done. In case you get glue anywhere it's not supposed to be, the rubbing alcohol actually works great for this. So you can spray a bit on your rag and then just go ahead and wipe whatever had the issue down, and then that will actually get it all off of there for you, so you won't even have to worry about it. All right, so now some things may need clamps. In this particular case, I don't know that we will, because I'm just literally going to flip this thing over and we're going to put it down, and then we're going to go ahead and start working on it.
Speed to the city streets, we began to feel the fire. We rise like tall buildings as the chemicals they take us higher. The night's young and it's just begun as she puts her hand in mine. We wanna chase the night, wanna dance to the light, pull stars from the sky, just two hearts running wild. Never say shout from the top, we're gonna be two hearts running wild. Now the morning is the afternoon. We lay awake in bed. It laughs so loud as the hours pass. We're gonna do it all again. We wanna chase the night, wanna dance to the light, pull the stars from the sky, just two hearts running wild. Never sleep, never stop, as we shout from the top. We're gonna be, we're gonna be two hearts running wild. The moonlight, summer sky, it was the best we ever had.
Okay guys, so that's going to be it. Looks like we were able to go ahead and get everything fixed. It's good as new. So I'm very happy with it. Touchscreen, everything works the way I wanted it to. Absolutely perfect. As always guys, if you like these kinds of videos, go ahead and hit a like, hit subscribe, and if you disliked it, go ahead and hit that dislike button. Let me know either way. We'll see you next time.